Number 1.
The Rams, they solved their dilemma. Corner, Trent McDuffie, top 5 corner, teammate Jalen Watson. There was an argument the Rams were the best team last year, but in the NFL, you don't have to be great anywhere. You can't be bad anywhere. And last year, the Rams really had issues in their secondary. So they've gone out, solved it. Trent McDuffie is an elite corner. And there you go. There's my post-coaching hires, post-free agency top 10. Baltimore, 11. Jacksonville, 12. Jacksonville lost a couple of key pieces.
Okay, let's dive into a comprehensive discussion about the Los Angeles Rams. This is a topic that has been percolating in my mind for a few days, and I think now is the perfect time to unpack it fully. I was watching the World Baseball Classic recently, and it got me thinking about the nature of competition, sample sizes, and how we evaluate greatness in sports. Baseball, as we all know, is defined by the 7-game series, the marathon of the postseason. Basketball follows a similar format. But the World Baseball Classic is different. It's a single elimination tournament for the most part. You win, you advance. You lose, and you might never see that opponent again. That format injects an incredible level of intensity and drama into every single pitch, every at-bat, and it made me reflect on the NFC Championship game and the Los Angeles Rams. That game was absolutely electric. I mean, it was one of those contests that reminded you why you fell in love with football in the first place. Now, I want to be clear about something. I was a believer in the Seattle Seahawks last season. At the end of the day, I went on record saying that the Seahawks were the best team in the NFL, and I stand by that assessment, given the context of the time. They won the Super Bowl. They played phenomenal football. They beat the Rams during the regular season. All of that is true and valid. However, when you make sweeping declarations about which team is the best, you have to consider the fundamental structure of the sport. Football is a 17-game regular season followed by a single elimination playoff tournament. That's the reality. If you don't understand that basic framework, I'm not sure why you're watching this video. But here's the thought experiment I've been wrestling with. If we lived in an alternate universe where the NFL playoffs were decided by a best-of-7 series, I find it incredibly difficult to believe that any team would have beaten the Los Angeles Rams. Think about what Sam Darnold accomplished last season. He deserves heaps and heaps of praise, credit, respect, and admiration for his performance. He played out of his mind. The NFC Championship game, which I live-streamed and watched with intense focus, was as thrilling as you could possibly imagine. It featured high-level, dramatic, back-and-forth quarterback play from both signal callers. It was an awesome, awesome game. But here's the crucial distinction. When you shift from a single game to a 7-game series, you have to ask yourself a different set of questions. It's no longer about who can rise to the occasion once. It's about who can do it again and again and again. Who can replicate that level of excellence on a week-to-week basis against the same opponent who is making adjustments? If you're looking at a 7-game series, who are you banking on to deliver repeatedly? For me, the answer is Matthew Stafford. When you survey all the quarterbacks who made the playoffs last season, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and others, and you go down that list, the safest prediction you could possibly make is that Matthew Stafford is the most likely to have a consistently great game. It's the most lukewarm, opposite of a hot take imaginable. I believe that Matthew Stafford over Drake May, over Josh Allen, in a 7-game series, is the most reliable bet in town. Now, if you asked a different question, which quarterback do you need to have the single greatest game in the history of the NFL? The answer might be different. Then you might say, I don't know. Drake May has been doing some wild, unprecedented things. Josh Allen has delivered some Herculean performances. Jalen Hurts has had multiple record-breaking Super Bowl outings. If the game is spiraling out of control and you need one singular miraculous moment, guys like Josh Allen can rise to that occasion. Say what you will about Jalen Hurts, but he has obviously risen to the moment in multiple Super Bowls. We've seen spectacular singular moments out of Caleb Williams, literally against the Los Angeles Rams themselves. But if we're talking about consistency, if we're talking about a 7-game series, my expectations shift. The same logic applies to coaching. We saw some remarkable coaching displays last season. Sean Payton got ripped, rightfully so from my viewpoint, for his performance against the New England Patriots. Yet, I thought he did a beautiful job scheming up the Buffalo Bills. Ben Johnson had his masterpieces against the Green Bay Packers. We saw all sorts of variations and brilliant game plans across the league. And yet, through it all, there's Sean McVay. This was essentially my take throughout last offseason and into the regular season. I would say things like, I don't know if the Los Angeles Rams are definitively the best team in the NFL right now. This was around week 11, week 12, whenever the conversation came up. But I would always add, they are the team I trust the most. There's a distinction there that I try to articulate when we have these discussions. Trust doesn't necessarily equate to raw greatness or statistical dominance. It's a different lens through which to view the league. You have to look at things through multiple frameworks to have varied conversations. Otherwise, you're just recycling the same tired arguments. For me, it was always clear. I trust the Los Angeles Rams more than any other team. I could simultaneously believe that the Seattle Seahawks were a better team on paper or based on regular season performance. But I trusted the Rams more in a high-leverage, repeated exposure scenario. That's where the 7-game series concept, or even a 3-game series, earns its keep. Obviously, I understand that football isn't played that way. This is my long-winded way of arriving at the present moment. Right now, the Los Angeles Rams have become the combination of both. They are the team you can trust the most, and the team you can truly believe is the best. They have achieved that rare fusion. Their roster is absolutely positively stacked. It's loaded at every level. Even if we just take a hypothetical top 10 rankings, let's say this is Colin's top 10 for argument's sake, I cannot say that I have the same level of trust in the Chicago Bears that I have in the Rams. I cannot say that I have the same level of trust in the Seattle Seahawks, especially with a new offensive coordinator and legitimate question marks hovering over that side of the ball. I believe in Sam Darnold, absolutely. But I don't know if Sam Darnold can replicate his NFC Championship performance consistently. I can't look at him and say, oh, we know he'll ball out, no worries in the world. I can't say that about him. And this is coming from someone who has defended and praised him extensively. This is similar to what I've said about Jalen Hurts. The fact that Jalen Hurts has balled out in 2 completely separate Super Bowls actually has to count for something. He's done it multiple times now. That builds a different kind of trust. I absolutely have trust in Josh Allen. I actually have a lot of trust in Bo Nix, considering his rookie year trajectory. But there are different variations of this conversation. When I look at the teams as a whole, not just the individual quarterbacks, my perspective sharpens. Take the Eagles. Even though I trust Jalen Hurts, I don't have the same trust in the Eagles as an organization right now. Why should I? That trust wasn't well earned against the San Francisco 49ers at home last season. So why would I feel differently now? The Lions are still working things out. Drake May has to earn that trust. He hasn't earned it yet. And I want to be very clear about what I'm saying here. I'm trying to layer these evaluations through levels of trust. I don't doubt Drake May's talent, but I don't fully trust him yet either. It's a nuanced dance with words. It's the space between I don't doubt them and I trust them completely. When you look at the Rams, they have the roster. They have the trust in the individuals, specifically and most importantly, the quarterback. And they have the trust in the coaching staff. I can still generate a million questions about the Bears, the Seahawks, the Bills, the Broncos, and so on, especially if we're evaluating right now in this moment. Now, this is all subject to change. We could be sitting here in October, and I might say I absolutely trust the Buffalo Bills more than any other team. But if we're freezing the frame at this point in the offseason, the Rams represent the ultimate combination of trust and talent. There is nowhere where I have any type of doubt. Nowhere do I have genuine concerns or discomfort, whether I'm looking at them from a macro, big picture level, or a zoomed-in, micro level. Their trustworthiness is off the charts right now. Football is a funny sport. It is simultaneously incredibly resilient and incredibly fragile. Because of the single elimination format, one play can define a season. A bad throw can result in a 7-point swing in the blink of an eye in a way that basketball simply doesn't replicate. In basketball, a terrible shot might lead to a 3-pointer at the other end, but you can erase that deficit in 3.2 seconds. That's just not the case in football. In basketball, during the LeBron and Steph primes, everyone knew before the season started that it was going to be Warriors versus Cavaliers. It was a no-brainer guarantee, barring legitimate injuries. Football is not that way. But if it were that cut and dry, If we could make predictions with that level of certainty, I would be comfortable saying in March that the Los Angeles Rams are getting to the Super Bowl, at a minimum. However, because football is so inherently chaotic, there is no guarantee. That's what makes it exciting. That's why you actually have to watch the games. The Rams can legitimately lose to the Atlanta Falcons or the Carolina Panthers. They can lose to the Chicago Bears. They can lose to Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. It's all possible. But if you set that chaos aside for a moment and ask yourself, how do you really feel about these teams right now? How can you not have an insane amount of confidence and belief in the Los Angeles Rams? They seemingly have everything you could ever need on both sides of the ball. They have elite playmakers. They have elite veterans at the respective positions where you need them most, especially at the most important position with Matthew Stafford. They have the elite head coach to put it all together. And they have the elite general manager who, if moves need to be made throughout the course of a season, via the draft or in-season acquisitions, is more than capable of executing them. This reminds me of something that always irked me when Colin would make comments like this during the season. Last year, around the middle of the season, after the Chiefs had overcome some injuries and suspensions, Colin said, "I think the Chiefs are the #1 team, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think they're a touchdown better than everyone else." I remember thinking, I don't know about that. I thought the Chiefs were good, better than their record indicated, but a touchdown better than every other team? That struck me as nonsense. I wholeheartedly disagreed. In this moment, that's kind of where I see the Rams. They feel a touchdown ahead of every other team right now. Again, that doesn't mean it will play out that way in practice. It doesn't mean that by September, that perception won't completely change. But I have no problem backing myself into a corner with these types of takes. When you're evaluating a team right after the initial wave of free agency, I have no issue making strong statements. I know things will change. They could completely flip in a couple of months after the draft. I might find myself saying, you know what? I actually feel this way about the Buffalo Bills now, not the Rams. That's the whole point of letting the offseason unfold. But as of right now, in the middle of March, the Rams have such a gap, such an aura of excellence. The only thing I genuinely question is whether they can replicate that offensive output. Can they repeat what they did last season with Stafford? Historically, you typically don't see teams repeat that kind of offensive masterclass. Devontae Adams is probably not going to have another season like that. As great as Pukanakwa is, and as great as Stafford and McVay are, it's just not the norm to see that level of offensive execution 2 years in a row. It's not to say they need it, but it's just not necessarily the norm in modern football. Maybe in the 80s or 90s, you saw more consistency, but definitely not in today's NFL. That is a legitimate question mark. But here's the thing. This is where I get frustrated with certain analytical takes. There are people, and I won't name names, but some of my co-panelists rely on this, who will look at something that happened last year, cite historical data that says it won't happen again, and build an entire argument around that. I always push back on that. I don't care about stuff like that when it becomes too weirdly specific. That kind of data is interesting, but it's not the end-all, be-all for me. It's never the foundation of my take. When someone says, they're due for a loss, therefore they're going to lose, I roll my eyes. I get it. Teams don't go undefeated. But I'm not going to predict a loss simply because of some abstract statistical inevitability. That logic is similar to saying, because you did something last year, the likelihood of you doing it again is low, therefore you're not going to be as good. Technically, the logic is there to a degree, but I think you're getting too tripped up in the numbers and missing the forest for the trees. There are other teams that I'm genuinely excited to watch and see how things unfold. The Chargers will be a lot better. Bo Nix and the Broncos are growing. The Eagles will certainly be better than they were last season. I'm fascinated to see what happens with the Seahawks now after winning the Super Bowl, especially with the loss of Clint Hurt. Year 2 with Sam Darnold. This is the first time in a long time that Darnold will actually have continuity with a team. Year 2 or 3 with Drake May. Year 2 with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. I am so incredibly fascinated to see what steps these quarterbacks and these teams can take. That's why my mind is totally open to changing. But if you have to choose right now, how can you choose any team but the Los Angeles Rams? That's probably what I'm trying to emphasize more than anything. How can you pick another team ahead of them if you had to make a choice at this very moment? There's a difference between that and predicting who will win the Super Bowl. When you make predictions, you have to factor in all sorts of variables: schedule luck, injuries, divisional strength, and so on. But if you had to pick the safest choice, the team that inspires the most confidence, right now, it's hard for me to see how you could pick anyone else. The Rams are just turbocharged. That's really what it feels like. They are absolutely, positively turbocharged. As long as Matthew Stafford doesn't experience a sudden, dramatic decline, the kind where you wake up and say, wow, he aged fast, they are the team to beat. And even if that concern lingers in the back of my mind, no other team inspires the same level of confidence when I look at the totality of their roster, coaching staff, front office, and recent track record. So, those are my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Los Angeles Rams? Do you think I'm overinflating them? Maybe you're a fan of the Broncos, the Eagles, the Texans, or the Chargers, and you think your team deserves that top spot. Do you think it's fair, in this moment of time, to see the Rams as the clear, bona fide best team? Again, I'm not saying they're guaranteed to win anything. I'm playing a hypothetical game. If you had to choose the safest choice right now, what would it be? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree. Either way, let's get some discussions going. Let's get into some friendly fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun with it. And please, do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you be a part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something we are really excited to be a part of. I think we are well on our way to doing that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.